Welcome. Today's topic is Hatha Yoga. Hatha is a Sanskrit word which can be defined either as meaning exertion or as meaning sun and moon, with Ha meaning sun and Ta meaning moon. So Hatha Yoga is the yoga which involves strenuous physical practices or which involves the union of sun and moon. In the earliest Hatha Yoga texts, we get descriptions of physical practices that are quite different from what we see in most modern yoga studios, where complex asana practices had not yet been created, but there were records of different breathing techniques and what are called mudras, which are seals that are held in the body that channel energy in different ways. And the early texts describe Hatha Yoga as the yoga which is concerned with the control of prana, called pranayama, and with the control of bindu. Pranayama primarily consists of breathing techniques because we primarily get prana, vital energy, through the breath. We also get prana from things like sunlight, from food, from social interaction, and from other sources, but we get it most consistently through the breath, and we will die most immediately if we stop breathing. Bindu is another form of subtle energy that is related to sexual energy, and this is like the glue that helps to bind together the physical body, the subtle body, the causal body, and the spirit. The early practitioners of Hatha Yoga were primarily celibate ascetics, so they were concerned with channeling this sexual energy in a way that would facilitate an expansion of consciousness and the union of their individual awareness with universal consciousness. Over time, these same sorts of techniques that were primarily practiced by celibate ascetics began to be translated into forms that were accessible to householders or married people, basically, so that they could still engage in sexual contact without losing bindu. Bindu is also called ojas in Ayurveda. It is connected to semen in men and to menstrual fluid in women in the same way that prana is connected to the breath. So prana, or vital energy, is a subtle energy that circulates throughout the entire body. So it's not exactly the same as the oxygen flowing in and out of the lungs during the respiratory process. But the process of respiration, the process of breathing, gives us most of our prana and is responsible for the circulation and flow of prana throughout the body. So in a similar way, the extent that a man ejaculates or to which a woman menstruates is going to influence the amount of ojas that they have in their system. In order to channel this energy and to refine and sublimate it, there are these different techniques in Hatha Yoga that are specifically designed to retain the subtle essence that is connected to semen and to menstrual fluid, and to sublimate that essence to allow it to act as a kind of spiritual glue that unifies body, mind, and spirit, and which provides mental stability, emotional well-being, and a greater sense of focus, peace, love, and clarity. So these different physical practices help people to retain and sublimate this sexual energy in order to, again, expand their awareness and to become more in touch with universal bliss and consciousness. And over the centuries, these practices became more complex and started to include various different postures that have different effects on the physical, subtle, and causal bodies. So all these physical practices are based on the belief that the body is a temple. It is a microcosmic image of universal consciousness and contains the essence of universal consciousness within it. So as I mentioned in the video on karma, spiritual practice, and spiritual liberation, yoga tells us that there are three bodies: a physical body, a subtle body, and a causal body. And these three bodies are interwoven. So before we die, when the subtle body and the causal body are separated from the physical body, the subtle body and the causal body are usually so tightly enmeshed with the physical body that anything that we do to the physical body impacts our energy field, it impacts our karmic record in the causal body, and things that impact our causal body and our subtle body can also affect our physical body as well. And we can see this link between the physical and the energetic and mental aspects of our being in everyday experience, such as when somebody gets anxious and they start hyperventilating, or if somebody gets really hungry and they get irritable. These are examples of ways that the mind and the body are really interwoven and connected to each other. Using modern scientific language, we can understand the connection of the mind and the body through understanding the nervous system and understanding what's called polyvagal theory. So the nervous system is one of the body's primary organ systems that relates to the brain, the spine, and countless nerves that extend throughout the entire body. One of the most important nerves is called the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to all of our major organs, including the lungs, the diaphragm, the stomach, etc. And the vagus nerve has the ability to regulate our mood as well as these organs and our experience of being either at ease or being in a state of fear or anxiety or survival instincts, or in a state of shutting down. So there are different branches of the vagus nerve, really countless different branches that spread throughout the body, which is why it's called polyvagal theory, poly meaning many. So there are many vagus nerves that connect to one central vagus nerve. And there are three main branches of the vagus nerve. There is the ventral vagal, which is the most recent branch of the vagus nerve to evolve, and that is involved with our ability to socially engage with people, to feel calm and at ease. It's also related to what's called the rest and digest mode. So this is when blood and other vital energies and fluids can collect in the abdomen and the core of the body in order to digest food, in order to digest past experiences and emotions. And this mode of the ventral vagal helps us to feel calm and peaceful and to be able to connect with others in a healthy way. So there is a second part of the vagus nerve, which is actually older, called the sympathetic nervous system, which is also referred to as the fight or flight mode pretty frequently. So this is when blood and other energies and fluids are sent out to the limbs so that we can fight people, or that we can, or animals or what have you, or we can run away because there is some kind of threat to our survival. So this is much older than the ventral vagal because it's more important for surviving in the wilderness. But in modern society, this tends to be overactivated, where people are in this state of hyper arousal and fear and anxiety all the time, or most of the time, and rarely get a chance to really relax and feel at ease, even though there are no, or maybe no, immediate threats to their physical survival. Oftentimes people are still getting really stressed out by things like work, pollution, social stressors. There are a lot of different things that can cause this. And when that overactivation of the sympathetic nervous system gets to a certain degree of intensity, then that activates what is called the dorsal vagal, which is the third part of the vagus nerve, which is related to the freeze response. And this is like if a predator has a rabbit caught in its jaws, then the dorsal vagal of the rabbit will activate and cause it to go limp, just in case there's a chance that the predator will release it and then it can escape. But when this gets activated in non-life-threatening situations, it can lead to things like depression, emotional numbness, and inability to connect with others, and these kinds of social and emotional issues that can cause a lot of pain. So with yoga, there are certain things that we do, like diaphragmatic breathing with the diaphragm, and so that our abdomen expands and relaxes with the breath. And that helps to activate the ventral vagal so that we can rest and digest and feel relaxed and at ease and focus. So if somebody is in a state of constant dorsal vagal activation, then oftentimes they will first have to pass through sympathetic nervous system activation and become anxious or fearful or angry before they are able to pass back into the ventral vagal and feel at ease and calm and at peace. So in a similar way to how the nervous system has all these nerves branching throughout the entire body, the physical body, the subtle body has similar branching rivers or streams called nadis that carry vital energy or life force throughout the body and animate the body. According to the yoga tradition, there are 72,000 nadis throughout the body. Who knows how they could have counted all of them, but for our purposes, there are 3 nadis which are most important for our yoga practice. There is a heating solar energy channel on the right side of the body called the Pingala. There is a lunar cooling energy channel on the left side of the body called the Ida. And there is a central channel called the Sushumna, which extends from the crown fontanelle, which is this slight dip at the top of the head, to the perineum, which is between the genitals and the anus. So the left and the right energy channels are connected to the left and the right nostrils respectively, so that when we breathe, if we're breathing through one nostril in particular, then the energy channel on that side of the body will tend to be activated more. And when the energy in both the left and the right channels is relatively balanced, then it is easier for our awareness and our life force to enter into the central channel. The central channel, the Sushumna, has the most concentrated form of prana contained within it. It's called Kundalini. Kundalini is the power of individuated consciousness that has become a personal identity. It's the life force that identifies with this particular body, this particular mind, and believes that we are separate from other bodies and minds. When this energy is in most people, the way that this energy is expressed in most people is as being mostly dormant most of the time. There's still some of that energy active to help us to be aware and conscious of our surroundings and anything that is going on, but most of it is dormant in the lower chakras and energy centers in the lower part of the abdomen and the pelvis. and especially at the root chakra, which is at the perineum. So there are different yogic and tantric practices that involve working with these energies in the right and left channels and the central channel. And by working with these energies, it becomes possible to stimulate and awaken the dormant kundalini and cause it to ascend and rise through the central channel towards the crown of the head. And as that latent energy of self-identification begins to rise, it expands our individual awareness and unifies our individual awareness with universal consciousness, so that we no longer feel like a separate individual self with no connection to other people or to nature or to the universe or to the divine, but instead we become directly, immediately aware of the blissfully free ground of being. So Kundalini activation is often symbolized with a lightning bolt, because that sudden burst of energy is similar to how some people experience the awakening of Kundalini. So under proper guidance and with proper preparation, this can be a very powerful energy to work with that can greatly enhance our spiritual awareness and connection to the divine. Without proper preparation, however, without a nervous system that has been trained and disciplined over a period of time to be able to handle that kind of immense surge of energy, it can also kind of fry our circuits, so to speak, and cause a lot of physical and psychological health problems like hallucinations. So when working with Kundalini, it is very important to stay grounded, especially in the physical body, connected to the earth, connected to nature. And when we are properly grounded, that electrical current of Kundalini can more safely pass through us without causing harm. There is a myth that can very well symbolically illustrate this point around the birth of the deity Ganesha, the elephant-headed god